with this being part of the build-up for the tutorials, I'll give you a little bit of insight on the trucking industry and just the different avenues that you'd be able to take. There are various types of trucks to drive. There's different routing, I'll say, and just what you would feel comfortable with starting out, maybe progressing, and kind of go from there. Basically, I would say there's 3 different types of trucking jobs. You can start with your city work, which is basically just staying within so many miles or kilometers of the terminal that you're in. So say I was working in Vancouver, I'd go within the greater Vancouver area, towards Abbotsford and that sort of stuff. And you get paid by the hour on average. You've got that. Then you've got what's called regional work, and I would believe that what I do at Aero with the B trains would be regional work. That's where you go within so many 100 miles. You may be gone overnight, but you're basically going to be home every few days or so. What they wanted me to do at Bison was regional, and that's where my discrepancy was with them. That's a whole other subject, but with the regional that they were giving me, that would have been more from here in British Columbia down to California, over to Alberta and back. So basically the western region of North America. Then you got, central North America, like the prairies between Alberta to Ontario, and then I guess Montana through the Dakotas and that sort of stuff, the Midwest. And then you've got your eastern division, from everything Ontario over, and I don't know exactly where the line is in the U.S. there, but so that's basically, you got your regions, which, like I said, you'll be home every few days or so. And then you've got your long haul over the road. That's what I personally prefer. That's just what I've done for my career, basically, is with the buses or with the trucks, have been over the road. Basically, you go where they tell you to go. You can be out from anywhere from 8 to 10 to 14 days, 3 weeks, whatever you feel you're comfortable with. Don't let the company bully you into doing something you're not comfortable with. If you want to be out for 14 days, you make sure you tell them, I don't want to be out for longer than 14 days. And when you start getting to your 8th day, you start saying, okay, well, if you start heading me back, then, I'll be happy. So that's, basically those are the different scenarios you can end up with. Then you can break it down into whether you drive, if you want to drive just like a 5-ton truck, it's the, like the, basically the U-Haul size, the biggest size they've got, 10 tons. They're called straight trucks, up here at least. You can drive those. Those are mostly city work. I'm sure, if you get into moving companies or stuff like that, you're going to find some areas where they'll have that type of thing for you. Then you get into your semis, which are the 48 foot and 58 or 48, 53 foot trailers. That's your over the road, basically. But with that, you'll haul up to 80,000 pounds worth of cargo in the U.S. Up here in Canada, I think it's 87, something like that. And then from there, up here in BC, we call them different things. Basically, they're trains. They're A-trains. I believe an A-train is you've got a trailer behind you. Hooked up to that, you've got a dolly, which will either be 1 or 2 axles. And it'll basically look like a bobtail from the back of the cab, to the tail, right? Basically, it looks like that. And then you'll have another trailer after that. B-train, which is what I've driven, you've seen in my videos, it's the one train with the axles underneath the 5th wheel, and then your second trailer, your B-box, will be attached to that. And then there's Super Bs, which I don't know exactly what that is. I can't remember it offhand. I know I've seen them, and I've read about them, but I haven't seen many lately, I don't think. And then you get into what are called turnpikes. That's another thing. Yeah, you've got gravel truck, which is basically your city work, right? But going back to the different types of trucks, we've got your turnpikes, which I think in the States are called doubles or something like that. But basically, the 53-foot trailers. Attached to that is the dolly again with 1 or 2 axles, and then another 53-foot trailer behind that. So you got different options on what you want to handle, and I'll give you a little bit of what's going through my head right now. We're coming up to the winter season. It's September now, late September, and I've gone up to Cache Creek and I've seen a little bit of dusting of snow up on the hills there. It's about the right time, going through the rocks the past couple of years, the Rockies. I've noticed, around September there, you'll start getting the snow up in the higher elevations, and it'll start coming down. It is getting colder up there. And my experience in the past 4 years of driving truck have been with 53-foot trailers. I have no problem driving 53-foot trailers. I believe that, not to be cocky, I believe in my own mind at least, that I know how to handle those, at least safely enough to not get into any sticky situations, and if I do, it's only going to, really involve myself and no other motorists. But I honestly do not feel comfortable enough to drive B trains through there through the winter yet, which is one of the reasons why I'm going back onto the highway here in a couple of weeks. So with that, again, as far as I'm concerned, I'm smart enough to know my limits. So I'm coming out of that. As much as I like the experience and as much as I like being home, I know what I can handle, and I don't feel comfortable enough to handle. I've only had 2 months experience with B trains, and I know, with 53-foot trailer, I've got the one trailer and me. With B train, that B box starts going all over the place. Your A box starts sliding out. Then you got to really do a lot of thinking to correct it, and I just don't feel at that point yet. So what I'm doing is the smart thing, taking myself out of that situation and going back to what I know. I know I've talked about the ice roads. I don't think I'm going to do that this year again. Maybe I'll, start looking at doing it for next year. Get another, year of just regular highway winter experience. It's not going to hurt. So basically, with that, if you don't feel comfortable going into a B train situation, don't even look at it. If you don't feel like going into that you're comfortable enough with going to a 53-foot trailer, which basically, when you go through your schooling, you're going to end up on a 53-foot anyways. You're going to know what you're doing before you get out of school with that. Now, you've also got to think personally what's going to be best for me. If you're single, over the road is the best idea. If I were single, there'd be no question. I probably would have in 4 years owned my own truck, and I'd have an address in my hometown. I'd probably use my parents' address or whatever, and I would just live out of the truck. It's probably not the easiest thing to do, but if you do that, you're going to get some miles under your belt quick, and your wallet's going to beef up pretty quick, as long as you're smart in what you do. If you have a spouse or a family, you got kids at home, you might not want to do the over the road, because as much as I can say, yeah, you'll be out 14 days or 3 weeks or something like that, there are no guarantees. You could get, during the winter, you can get stuck. You could sit there for a day or two, and, that's going to take a toll on, everything that you do. Maybe regional is more, going to be your thing. Do a couple overnighters, spend a day at home, do another couple overnighters, do a day at home, that type of thing. Maybe city work. Right? Maybe you don't want to be away from home. Maybe you want to be home every night, So you really got to think what's going to work out personally for the family situation, back at home, what have you. What kind of expenses you have, because you're either going to get paid hourly or by the mile, or sometimes even by the load. You get a percentage of the revenue from that move that you do. So, you got to think of those different aspects on, what the situations are that it's going to best warrant you getting into the industry. As well, your own personal mentality. Again, I go back to the fact that I'm leaving the B train. I don't think that I'm mentally capable at this point to be able to say, oh no, my B box is going this way, my A box is going this way, and I'm going that way. right? So I'm taking myself out of that situation. I'm going back to where I'm comfortable, right? There does come a point when you have to say, all right, you know what? I'm comfortable, too comfortable doing this. It's time to try something else. Keep that challenge going. But, you know, I just feel that 2 months driving experience with B-Trains is just not enough. I don't feel comfortable. So, you got to put all those aspects into it before you even go in to get your license. Because you know what? The situation may say you're not ready for this, or you know what? There is, and more when you get into the city work, I think. But there is some physical end to it. It's not just sitting on your rear end, you know. You do have to go out and do stuff. You also got to do paperwork. You gotta be pretty good in math. You got to do your logbook every day, you know. Again, depending, because if you do city work, different states may vary. Everything I say may vary from state to state, to province to province, to country to country. But the general rule of thumb is basically if it's within, I think it was 150-mile radius of where you are, then you don't have to keep a logbook. But if it's anything past that point, then that's when you got to start, you know, doing your logbook. Now, if you do something like I do, where the office is located, Cache Creek is just on that fringe, they do it just to make sure. I personally would still keep a logbook, just because, you know, now I'm going back out onto the highway, so they're going to need, the new company is going to need 7 days previous of what I've done. So I can go in my logbook, I'll know what I did. If I didn't keep that logbook, then I'd have to take a guess, and I'd probably short myself out. So with that, basically, you got options when you get into the industry. Really research before you even go to take your written test, because like I said, it might not be for you, you know. Maybe it will be in 10 years, you know. Maybe you got kids and, you know, they'll bugger off in a couple of years or whatever, or you're just about to retire or something, you know, and instead of buying a motorhome, you'd rather go and buy yourself a Peterbilt and, you know, live out of that and still make money while you travel, then, you know, then that might be an option. But I really want to make sure that if you want to get a license, if you want to drive a truck, you want to drive a truck. It's not just some fly-by-night thing. One, it's not worth it, and two, you're only going to hurt yourself. Well, you're going to hurt a lot of people, because you just get too complacent, and that'll be the end of it. I think I'll wrap this video up. Thank you for watching. Hope you stay tuned for the next.